This is the Gearbox GX2 Power. It combines several things Gearbox has been working on for years now, and this time they nailed it. Elite power, big sweet spot, good spin, and maybe most importantly, good feel. It's not cheap, but it is an elite tier performance paddle that's now the biggest competitor for the JOOLA 4 in terms of performance, and almost certainly outperforms it for durability. Let's get into it. Just a heads up, Gearbox did send me these paddles to test with no strings attached. They didn't pay me, didn't influence this review, and didn't see it before it went live. If you use my affiliate code to buy one, you'll get a discount and I'll earn a small commission, which helps support this channel and keeps these reviews coming. The Gearbox GX2 Power is on pre-order right now, and it'll begin shipping in 1 week on August 7th. The price is $280, and you can take 10% off that with the code Johnkew at checkout. So it currently comes in two shapes, an elongated and a hybrid. Their wide-body hyper shape will probably eventually make it into the lineup, but this isn't currently an option. You'll see the metrics on the screen now, but the elongated is extra long, measuring in at 16.65 inches, but it also sacrifices a bit of width, which I measured at 7.17 inches. Now, I'm most excited about their new hybrid shape, which maximizes the dimensions available in the rule of 24, so it's 16.14 inches long by 7.76 inches wide. Both paddles have a long 5.5-inch handle with a grip circumference of 4.0 inches, which is on the narrow side. The swing weights and twist weights are pretty optimal for these shapes, especially for Gearbox, which historically has gone very high on swing weight and very low on twist weight. So both paddles are below 120 swing weight and above 6.0 twist weight. I'll explain why that's important in just a bit. So for these X-rays and dissection, you're going to see how Gearbox's SST core works, which combines foam and carbon fiber in unique ways to manipulate the paddle's performance, feel, and even sound. Here are the X-rays for the elongated and hybrid paddles. The first thing that pops out are the carbon fiber rib segments that comprise the SST core. These are basically rectangular carbon fiber tubes filled with foam. And there are also layers of foam around the perimeter. And those white things that kind of look like tape or gauze around the edges, those are probably some kind of perimeter weighting on the interior. There also seems to be weighting in the handle, judging from the bright glowing strips. And here's what the elongated paddle looks like when it's cut open. Actually, before we see the internals, props to Gearbox for using a fully molded carbon fiber handle. There are no seams, you get flawless bevels, and this is just a top quality handle. Inside the paddle, you can see the carbon fiber rib structure extending most of the way through the core. Inside those carbon fiber ribs is a yellowish expanding foam similar to what people are using for edge foam. And there are 21 primary ribs, and each of these ribs is divided into smaller segments. An EVA foam band surrounds the ribs, and the EVA sits just inside another band of expanding edge foam. And that same expanding yellow foam continues down into the handle. After cutting a cross-section of the paddle, you can see the face layup under the microscope. It's a little difficult to see what's going on here because it's not as straightforward as most layups, which are typically just 3 layers of unidirectional carbon fiber. We do know that the top layer is a bidirectional twill carbon fiber weave. You can see that just by looking at the surface of the paddle. And these undulations under the microscope are the bidirectional weave. Question is, what's under that top layer of bidirectional carbon fiber? Turns out it's another bidirectional twill weave. You can actually see it on the underside of the face. Basically, it looks the same as the top side of the face. So the layup seems to be 2 layers of bidirectional twill woven carbon fiber. And a woven surface tends to give the paddle a bit of a softer feel compared to these unidirectional carbon fiber paddles. So let's move on to how these paddles actually perform. If you don't want to sit through the details, here's a 10-second TLDR summary. Both paddles have top-tier firepower, but I feel it's more accessible in the hybrid. Spin is elite on both, and I give the edge to the hybrid also for both sweet spot and forgiveness. I mean, both have a great feel, but it's exceptional on the hybrid. Okay, now let's break it down fully. Spin, power, pop, maneuverability, and sweet spot. The boxes at the top show the raw numbers, while the radar chart below puts those numbers into context, ranking them against over 300 other paddles in my database. The left side of the chart rates firepower, control and forgiveness are on the right, and the bottom shows hand speed and maneuverability. And here are the details for the elongated shape. You can see it's pretty maxed out over on the power side of the spectrum, and spin is also great, but we have a dip on the twist weight axis, reflecting a narrower sweet spot. Swing weight is slightly above average, and balance point is high, which is a reflection of less maneuverability. And here's the hybrid shape, and in my opinion, this is a more favorable distribution. You get big firepower, especially with pop, and the control side of the chart looks much better with exceptional spin and good twist weight, reflecting a wider sweet spot. Swing weight and balance point are also lower, which means better hand speed. So overall, these metrics I'd say are looking good for both paddles, but if you want better control and hand speed with your power paddle, the hybrid is the clear winner. By the way, these radar charts are available for nearly every paddle in my database, so head on over to JohnKewPickleball.com or follow the link in the description to check that out. So next, I tested both paddles with my ball cannon to measure KewCOR, which is my own version of the USAP's PB-Core rating, or what the UPAA calls PEF. In simple terms, it tells you how much energy the paddle gives back to the ball. In other words, it's a firepower score. So the elongated GX2 Power scored 0.405, and the hybrid scored slightly higher at 0.407. And you can see in this chart, this places both paddles squarely in the power category. Now, personally, I do feel like both of these paddles play a little bit higher in the power category, so closer to that upper end. And we'll talk more about my impressions next. So just like the performance metrics we just looked at suggest, these paddles do play great all around. Plenty of power and pop, good sweet spots, especially on the hybrid shape, plus the good dwell time on these paddles translates into top-tier spin and the ability to really shape the ball. So the elongated shape is a little less forgiving, but talking about the hybrid for a second, I feel like this paddle strikes an impressive balance between elite firepower and good control. The big sweet spot, good spin, and soft, forgiving feel allow you to keep your finesse, but elite firepower is right at your fingertips when you need it. And I think Gearbox nailed the overall feel of the paddle-ball collision with this series. The sound of the ball striking the paddle is pleasant, a deep, bassier tone, and there aren't many vibrations, but enough to allow you to feel connected to the ball. And the softness of the face makes the finesse game feel a little bit easier. If I had to pick this paddle's weakest point, it would probably be preventing pop-ups when being attacked at the midcourt. But that's just going to happen with any power paddle. I mean, somehow paddle companies haven't figured out a way yet to get perfect resets every time somebody attacks you. Anyway, these are only my initial impressions because I'm still injured and I can't play full competitive games yet, so I recruited the help of Eddie yet again. Yeah, Eddie, what do you think?
Got to be one of the top 2 or 3 paddles of the year so far. This paddle's really amazing. A real generalist in terms of everything that it can do. Power, it's got great dwell time for spin, even though the surface is not terribly gritty. Still getting a lot of action on the ball, which is really nice. You know, control is great. I'm taking like 75% swings on drives, and that's working out really well for me.
So tell me about the firepower. Where would you put it overall, and then what does the power versus pop look like?
Yeah, I would say I would put the power and the pop kind of at equal footing. It's got to be top half of the power paddles that are out there.
What do you think of that new hybrid shape?
Hybrid shape is good. It's got a really nice wide sweet spot. Doesn't have that hot spot in the middle that we've seen in other Gearbox offerings in the past. So again, a great offering from Gearbox, one of their top paddles.
Tell us about what you did to the edge guard there.
So this is automotive paint protection film. It's got a little bit of weight to it. I put it on here for protection purposes mostly. It gives the paddle a nice shine, but the secondary side effect of this is that it adds a little bit of weight all across the perimeter of the paddle, really kind of broadening out that sweet spot even more.
So I didn't get a chance to test the swing weight of Eddie's paddle with the clear automotive tape modifications he put on there, but for mine, I found that adding tungsten tape around the neck and the sides broadened the sweet spot and made it feel better without sacrificing too much in terms of hand speed. On the hybrid shape, I added 7 inches of 1/2 gram per inch tungsten on each side, starting just above the handle and going up the sides. So this bumped the static weight up to 8.3 ounces, the swing weight rose to 115, and the twist weight went all the way up to 7.3. Like I said, this broadens out the sweet spot, gives the paddle more plow through, and a better overall feel. And for the elongated paddle, I would do basically the exact same setup. You would be sacrificing a bit more hand speed because it does start at a higher swing weight, but I think the trade-off would still be worth it because where that shape suffers most is with its low twist weight. So if you would have told me 2 years ago that Gearbox would have somehow modified their SST core technology that was then in the Pro Power Elongated and turned it into what is now the GX2 Power, I wouldn't have believed it. The GX2 Power seems so improved, it just seems to be in a completely different league. Yet, under the hood, it is a very similar core, which I guess the owner of the company was actually right when he said that he could completely change the feel and performance of the paddle by tweaking small things in the SST core like the carbon fiber modulus, the orientation of the fibers, and the density of those fibers. In fact, I like this paddle so much that it might become my new main. Why? To me, it boils down to 3 things. Number 1, power that's very easy to tap into without feeling out of control. Number 2, there's still good control, which comes from really good spin, which is enhanced by dwell time, together with a large sweet spot. And lastly, number 3, there's just what I would call a wow factor when you play with this paddle. It just feels good to hit the ball, it makes a really good sound, and overall, it's just a really fun experience to play with this paddle. So where does the GX2 Power fall in with the current paddle landscape? I do agree with Chris Olsen that it's now the biggest competitor to the JOOLA Pro 4 series. They both have elite tier power without sacrificing too much control, and they both have that wow factor when you hit with them. I can think of a couple of reasons why I would recommend the Gearbox over JOOLA. Mostly it boils down to durability. Gen 3 paddles that use polypropylene honeycomb like the JOOLA 4s still suffer from durability issues, mostly core crushing. The Gearbox core, on the other hand, is almost certainly more durable. True, these paddles are new, so it's impossible to know for sure, but a very similar iteration of the current SST core was used in the first GX2 paddles released earlier this year, and so far I've heard nothing about them breaking. And Gearbox backs up their paddles with a 1-year warranty, and they do have a good reputation for customer service. It's definitely not impossible that these will break, but it just makes sense that a carbon fiber core would be more durable than a polymer one. And another edge I think Gearbox has here is that they're offering a 10% discount, which JOOLA has discontinued. So while they both sell for $280, you can knock the Gearbox GX2 Power down to $252 with the code Johnkew at checkout. And lastly, the Gearbox comes in hybrid, which is the only shape JOOLA doesn't offer. Now, I think my only gripe with the GX2 Power series is how narrow the elongated shape is. So it's actually closer to 7 inches than it is to 7.5 inches. And yes, you're gaining some reach with that 16.65 inch length, but I'd rather see it come in just below 16.5 and then max out the width to 7.5 to broaden the sweet spot. So if you want a top tier power paddle that doesn't sacrifice too much control and feels really good to play with, the GX2 Power is one of the best options on the market. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next video.